sitting on my porch today, enjoying a cup of coffee, feeling a bit of a breeze you might hear in this recording, and maybe some cicadas in the trees. And I felt like unpacking something that has been super surprising and incredibly enlightening to discover over the last many years of my deconstruction. People often talk about church hurt, right? They often throw that up as, okay, well, that's why this person stopped believing. Which I'll just say right now, I'll just say it is kind of silly to make that comment. If a person was attacked by a bear and that bear had already performed other attacks on people, and you said, well, you're just scared of the bear just because it hurt you, that would be a pretty dumb response, right? So it is incredibly stupid when people respond to somebody who does unpack maybe some of the hurt they've experienced in the church, and they say, well, you've just been hurt. It was just a bad experience. Yeah, you think? Lots of people have lost decades of their life serving in a community of people that never really truly cared to get to know them, except to exploit them. And in order to boost the overall message of the system itself, regardless of how it played out in people's actual daily lives. And most people don't really go to the trouble of connecting dogma to consequences. One of the things I really appreciate about the work of ex-pastor Durante Lamar is how he goes about the process of analyzing a lot of how specific dogma actually plays out in real time in individuals' lives and in communities and in countries, how it plays out and how it creates some of the very problems that the church claims that it is solving. And that is an interesting topic to explore on its own. You can check out his work and his messages. He's got a lot of videos relating to various parts of that. But what I wanted to expound upon was something called church grooming, because I think that is a far more dangerous thing than even the hurt itself that people experience in the church, which can be bad enough, right? I mean, there's a pedophilia problem in the church. There's a problem with pastors telling women to stay in abusive relationships. There is a problem. Well, there's lots of there's a lot, but church grooming, I think, is by far the worst part of it all. It is often the case that when somebody exits a cult, like I did, and a toxic family system, which in and of itself is like a cult, you become a person who is very curious about how relationships work, how the mind works. You become very obsessed with psychology. And because you're just trying to figure out what's going on with the shit show. And so what happened to me as I was going through that process was that I discovered over and over again how precisely the messages of the church mapped onto literally every form of grooming that a predator would use to harm you. And every form of abuse that typically gets discussed and most commonly in psychology it's there. It's in the Bible, and it's in the church messages, and it's in the worship songs, teaching us to basically brainwash ourselves into thinking that very dangerous behaviors are holy and spiritual and loving. One of the ones I wanted to talk about today, because there's so many, is the story of Job. Most people look at that story when they're going through a difficult time, and I have been going through a difficult time. Having a child with a mystery illness for 5.5 years that sometimes leaves them screaming in pain for maybe 5 minutes or maybe 5 hours, having inconsistent access to medical care and transportation, having a lacking support system, having people pull away because they got uncomfortable with how challenging what I was going through was, and so they stuck to the narrative, I'll pray for you, or chose to believe that I had engineered the struggles that I dealt with, or that I had solutions that I did not have. That's pretty difficult. But something about the Job story is that Job was doing just fine until this God character decides to talk to a devil character, and they play a little game with Job's life. Destroy everything that he has. He's suffering. He's demanding an answer from God. And does God ever give him an answer? At the end, God shows up manifesting his power. Right? He does a show of strength. Look at all this stuff that I did and all this. Do you understand any of this? Could you do this? Could you do that? And then at the end of it, he gives him stuff. What's very, very damaging about that is that I have seen that type of behavior in most of the men in my life that I have known all my life. When some part of their behavior becomes exposed as being harmful, instead of reflecting on that or taking accountability for that, the answer is, I'm the man, and showing off even more of their brute power. And how dare you question me? And just being offended that they might possibly be made to look bad or feel uncomfortable for what were truly harmful behaviors. So for years and years of our lives, we are groomed with that story, right? We idealize it as if this was a really deep spiritual lesson that Job had to learn to trust this God. If you're walking away from the story saying, yay, he learned to trust God, that's not the right answer, but that's how you were groomed to think of it. Over and over and over in the stories that we have in the biblical canon, there are stories that demonstrate a being who supposedly has unlimited power, but he doesn't have unlimited patience. And when he harms people, he says, look what you made me do. Or how could you not believe me after I murdered and drowned people, after I impregnated a teen girl? How could you not believe me? That kind of a God should not be believed. That kind of a God should not be trusted. And that kind of a person who demonstrates that attitude or behavior should not be trusted. But there are so many parts of the text of the biblical canon and the church experience that are a demonstration of abusive behavior patterns idealized as spiritual trust and holiness and God at work in our lives in a positive way, helping us to be refined, helping us learn to monitor our tone, helping us learn to second guess our own experience so that we don't piss him off too badly. There are many examples of this type of grooming in the text, and there is serious ramifications for it in people's individual lives and in communities overall. When we have people who are given authority that they believe they're given somehow by God, and are then given a title that then puts them in a position where we're acting in that exact way, like this God character does, is deemed appropriate precisely because everybody has been groomed with this story already. That is actually very dangerous. That's more dangerous than just the incidence of harm itself, because it prepares people to accept it and to judge themselves when they find reason to question it, when they reasonably feel their nervous system reacting to dissonance, to a situation that isn't right.